Hello virtual dreamers, MarkystalVR here. Our grasp of reality is only about as good as our senses and our brain's ability to process the information. Like with any process, there are ways to cheat the system in order to get access to the things that you want. In this case, exploiting the weaknesses in our body's sensory processing could be the key that gets us to higher levels of immersion sooner rather than later. We need only to look at our current immersive technologies to see how vulnerable our minds actually are. This very video that you're watching is not a tiny anime person behind a sheet of glass, but rather a bunch of still images created by a bunch of smaller single color squares put together that somehow makes curvy multicolor shapes. The words that you're hearing right now are, in all likelihood, not coming from a small person speaking in front of you, but from a diaphragm that's moving around in synchronization to electricity. Motion pictures somehow convey motion that isn't there, and speakers create sounds of things that aren't happening. Simple elements, but put together in the right way, and they form something that can be greater than their parts. After all, put two of those moving pictures side by side, focus them to your eyes, and have them match your head movements, and you've got the basis of virtual reality today. It's pretty amazing that our brains can be so easily fooled into believing things that aren't there, but there are an abundance of examples that prove this point, and many of which aren't even being taken advantage of yet. We use the term illusion to refer to things that our senses perceive incorrectly relative to what they actually are, and the sensation of motion from pictures that you get from videos is an example of a form of illusion. When you realize this and begin to examine the range of illusions that aren't being harnessed, it becomes readily apparent that there is a gold mine of immersive potential yet to be tapped. The rubber hand illusion and out-of-body illusion demonstrate that our sense of vision and a few touch cues are more than enough to make you treat limbs or whole bodies that have nothing to do with you as though they are your own body. The surround haptics technology developed by Disney shows that the use of tactile apparent motion and tactile phantom sensations can be used to make you feel touch from motors in spots where they aren't present. That's body presence and touch immersion through leveraging just 4 illusions right there. All in all, I'd say there are very few downsides to taking these approaches when it comes to obtaining sensory immersion. But I want to be fair here, since I am probably pretty biased. I will take a moment to address some of the obstacles you can face when you're treading down this path. For starters, while there are a lot of sensory illusions, it isn't always the easiest thing to be able to take advantage of them. Small screens and speakers are commonplace today, but if you go back to the 90s, you'll find that our current specs are space-age tech in comparison to what they had available at the time. And we need only look at the dearth of VR suits today to know that haptics are in a similar position still at this moment. It's also very important to know that since sensory illusions depend on using our brain's weaknesses to our advantage, having a brain or senses that aren't as vulnerable or don't jive as well with illusions can lead to a failure of the mechanisms, as can be seen with people who can't get their VR legs and get motion sick even from playing first-person shooters on regular screens. The biggest thing to remember here, and the reason why we likely won't ever stop trying to push toward the direct approach of outright hacking our brains, is that there are people who don't have the facilities available to be taken advantage of. A technology like Full Dive could allow the blind to see and the deaf to hear, paraplegics to run and jump. A sensory illusion will do no good to someone who doesn't have the senses to use to begin with. So don't get it twisted. These are stopgaps to hold us over to the end game. The show must go on, and if all goes well, we should hopefully leave behind these tricks in favor of the direct approach. as we can see today as we steadily make our way from rasterized rendering to ray tracing. As you can see, there are definitely quite a few things that still need to be figured out before sensory illusions can really be said to be the cure-all to everything. But I do have to stop the poo-poo train right there, since it's 2020 and you should all be able to tell me why wanting ray tracing isn't a reason to ditch raster graphics. Life is often a matter of compromises, everyone, and making do with what you've got is the core foundation that leads to getting to enjoy greater things down the line. Evolution in technology is an iterative process, and I don't think anyone would make the argument that video games shouldn't have been invented because we didn't have the ability to ray trace them properly till recently, or that electricity shouldn't be used till we have fusion power or a perpetual motion machine. Sensory illusions are the bedrock on which we have almost everything that we do right now in digital entertainment, and I believe they will be the key towards pushing virtual reality to the next level within 10 years rather than 30. There are no rules when it comes to reaching your goals in science that we ourselves do not put in place. And let's just say I'm not about to play fair against reality. So, if you ask me, if we want to reach higher levels of immersion faster and more efficiently, I'd say that sensory illusions will be the key to doing so sooner rather than later, and by our own skills rather than by the brute force of a cable nightmare implanted into your body or the generosity of our AI gods. Thank you, my dear viewers, for watching this video. Do be sure to rate, comment, share, and subscribe to let YouTube algorithm Sama know to make our paths cross again. Also, consider joining my Patreon in order to help me out directly and improve the quality of these videos. Till next time, my fellow adventurers and dreamers, this has been MarkysTal, logging out.